feeling excited. Is that really you're doing your face?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's the future, that.
Stop messing with my plugs.
Oh my god,
Do you
that's
want
a
to go and check
massive
it for a
one.
minute?
What? Yeah, what? Check it. Yeah, oh yeah.
Because I thought it was okay.
It's okay. I feel fine. I feel great. Yes, you're in it.
What about that one?
That angle's much nicer for you, just saying.
For me?
Yeah, like as in, like you look more pleasant.
Well, let's just go and record them and see which ones.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh, buggery balls. Right, okay. So I'm quite
Breathe.
aware. Ah,
Yeah.
okay, so if you would like to join me for some breathing, would you?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can have your back, I might put a pillow under my body. If you can have your back as straight as possible, just helps all your organs have space, and it also gives you a feeling of alertness and presence. And if you would like to close your eyes, you can if you want to, or you can like avert your gaze downwards. Avert. And just notice the presence of the ground against your feet. Just notice that feeling. You might feel your socks against your toes. Just notice the pressure and the support that the ground is giving you. And just have natural, normal breath. Just noticing your breath moving in and out of your body. And then if you would like to join me in taking one deep breath in and release. And another deep breath in. And release. And a third deep breath in. Bring your shoulders up to your ears. Have that breath nice and deep, and release and drop down the shoulders. And if you just place your hand on your belly and just have the intention to bring the breath down into the stomach and ballooning the stomach out with the in-breath. And we'll just do 4 of those. Just the gentle intention of the breath moving down and filling up the stomach. Arrive into this moment and be as true as we can be. Okay, and if you bring your attention back to your feet, give your toes a little scrunch and a wriggle. Take some deeper breaths, notice your posture, rub your hands together, and then open your eyes whenever you're ready.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really good to just ground yourself, and also just we get so busy, don't we, in life that we just get very few opportunities, or we don't take enough opportunities to relax in a different way than maybe looking at a phone or looking at a TV, looking for something else externally that's going to supply something, and actually all real power is within, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we should start with within and not the external. Do you think that's why sort of meditation is good for people? Would you call that a form of meditation? Because I felt in quite a nice place.
there was a really cool quote the other day about meditation. I can't precisely remember it now, but I think it's about our sensory doors, like our eyes, ears, nose, mouth, touch, are always taking things in, and I think in just stopping things coming in and making it the simplest thing possible, which is the breath, you kind of are like, oh my God, thank you, you know?
Well, I think one of the things that I've been chatting about for a while now, and that's that it's really strange how we take the breath for granted, and yet it's the one thing that keeps us alive, and yet we're so kind of flippant about it. We're casual about it, and yet once if we stop breathing, it's the end of life, isn't it? So it's incredibly important, and yet we take it for so much like, oh, it's just like, I'm just breathing. We don't even half the time, we don't even notice we're doing it, do we? So it's an interesting thing. I think it's also, if you think it's as important as it can be, it's like some of the top athletes, when they're in a very, very moment of pressure, the best thing you can do is to do some breathing, isn't it? So because you probably, your heart rate is racing because you're under pressure, so to bring that sort of heart rate and be more natural and normal is to try and bring that down again. So that's a good way to start. So we're going to do some YouTubing, Facebooking sort of type thing, and we're wanting to call it TruTV. I'm put my teeth in.
TruTV.
Why TruTV?
Why TruTV? So this is really interesting, actually. Thanks for asking. And yeah, the other day I was just talking to people about some truths that I've found and techniques that I've found to help myself, and I've had some experience with Buddhism and other different religions, Christianity, and I moved into this space of not calling myself a Buddhist. I just felt like I'm looking for the truth, and it felt so relaxing to just have that as just my sentence to describe Anna, as opposed to me saying I am a Buddhist. It was like, I'm just searching for the truth, and if it comes up in Buddhism or Christianity, then that's how it comes up, and it's that flow of just finding the truth wherever it comes from. So yeah, TruTV seems like we're all just trying to find the truth.
Interesting when we say that. I think in a time of sort of massive uncertainty, and I think sort of like we just sit and watch TV to look for them to give us the truth. I think we're probably further from the truth than we've ever been. I think as in individual people, I think we've sort of been laid upon about other people's beliefs, and we're not really sort of like searching out what could be the truth. Everyone wants to be right, but I don't know if they know the truth that they're in to be right with. So I was thinking, sort of, you talk about why TruTV, and both of us have had experience of, like, before we know what we kind of know now. What was your experience of life before? What were you up to? What were you trying to search for? Can you remember? So, like, in your maybe your teenage years. And
I would say I was directionless. I'd say it's very interesting. It feels like it's such a different world now. It doesn't even feel like that was me. It's really interesting. It's almost like I was out of my body and now I'm in it.
yeah.
So I'd say I had an underlying itch that was like looking for connection, and I found it in fleeting moments through taking drugs. I found at the time it was awesome. It was like, felt connected to bigger. I felt I was visually seeing light and connection and having a purpose and a bigger place in society, whereas when the drugs wore off and I had to get up and go to work, it was grey. It was like the opposite. It was grey. It was like, hi guys, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this? And it was preying on that lady wanted white teeth, I could tell, because she looked really, really smart, so I could tell that her image was important to her. So I was selling a toothpaste, and I would say, oh, this toothpaste whitens your teeth, gets them amazingly white, kind of saying lies to people, with, you know, coming from a place, need to sell this to make money for myself. And it was literally like, I didn't realise that it didn't feel right. It was just an autopilot thing that I did. And then I think I got to this point of, okay, I'm taking drugs, and they do give me that hit for a moment, and I feel connected, and I feel so deeply connected. But is this how I'm going to do this for the rest of my life? Am I going to just keep taking the drugs? Got to a point that was really horrendous, where I was like taking it nearly every day. And I went to see the doctors, and they sent me to counsellors, and then the counsellors couldn't help me because they wanted to work with an underlying reason, but if I kept taking drugs, they couldn't get to the underlying me. So it was this interesting, you know, like discombobulated, messed up situation where there was that I wanted something but didn't know how to get there. So I had an underlying feeling that meditation would be able to get me there, and then that was my door opening to myself and truth.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think, sort of my experience of being with people, lots of people over time, is that we tend to try and hide the real truths that we kind of know that are in us, but because the enormity of sorting ourselves out to a degree can be so big that it's easy to avoid our self-truths, and again we look very much externally. And the question that kind of keeps coming back to me at the moment would be is there's two things that are out there. I think there's an external thing going on and there's an internal thing, and I think we often look for the external for the pleasure and for the fulfillment, when actually most of it's internal. And I think if we get the internal right, we experience the external in a much better way.
Yeah, like even a table can be awesome.
Yeah, well, it kind of is there. And then, you know, the materialistic is okay then, isn't it? Because you're purchasing a materialistic thing not to fulfill you, but because you admire it for what it is. Especially if somebody's taken time to build it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's been built with vision and love and attention to detail, then there's nothing wrong with admiring beauty in a table, to admiring beauty in a person, to admiring beauty in a hill. But I think so it's the only thing that we're doing, we're not going to fulfill the internal. So my sort of experience, and you shared a little bit of your background, I thought I'd just think about mine, and I realised for a long time I was putting my external self into a lot of it was to get admiration or love from my mum, especially. Mum and dad split up sort of when I was about sort of 9, but that wasn't the big movement. I think it was as kids, there was 3 of us. I felt out of the 3, and I was always trying to get mum to recognise me, or even my brother and sister, and so that was something that I didn't really properly understand until 1, I started sort of like exploring God and Christianity, and 2, the big hit was when my mum actually passed away. It's around about sort of 8 years ago now, and I thought, oh gosh, she's gone. That was my focus. That was where I needed to search for my sort of like ordination, sort of like, you know, for her to say well done. You know, that was kind of like always wanting to please her, and once I'd taken that out of the scenario, I was like, whoa, this is interesting. What the bloody hell do I do now?
Wow.
And so that was very much like a search for looking within rather than looking for out. So there's a looking to fulfill, because that was just fulfilling the loss and the hole by trying to get her adoration.
Yeah.
You know, and I also, and if it wasn't her, I would definitely, you know, it was cars, girlfriends, sort of, you know, dabble into sort of like, you know, small drugs, whatever, but alcohol probably as well, you know, just having a good time. But it was very much an external, never even thought about something bigger and higher than myself, something that was just, you know, what's this world all about sort of stuff. So, and it's interesting though, because I think so once you know, that was something that I was carrying that gave me some of my character, but it's also because I experienced not feeling loved or fulfilled in one sense. It gives me my passion and drive for wanting that for other people now. So, you know, you can turn that kind of real negative into something that's positive, isn't it?
Yeah, we were touching upon that last night actually, a friend and myself, and she said something really cool about when we're like 11 or 12, we're trying to decide who we are, and we're looking at who is in our surroundings, so like our parents, and we're kind of like, do I want to be more like that person or less like that person? And then you can go like the opposite way, you know. So it's really beautiful how you've said you're looking for love from the outside. You want to provide it and help people find it for themselves. The passion is there that drives you forward to do that from your experience. So it's like loving all of the experience. And I think it took me time to get to that point. I was like, this is annoying. Why did I have to go through all this emotion, and why did all this happen and all this, and then it's about perspective, isn't it? And this is the beauty, and this is probably even why we're talking, is just to give our perspectives on our experiences, which can inspire others to think, oh, well, what do I think about? Do I just think about materialistic things, which is not a judgment? Do I just look for a car to please me? Or do I want feelings in my heart? Or do I want experiences? Or do I want to just feel my aliveness and be like, oh my gosh, like I've got organs in here that are doing a job and I don't even have to do anything. So it's like, it's just an opening of perspective.
Well, a real sort of tangent, because just when you sort of said that now, I was just thinking the other day, it's funny that we've got obsessed with the skin that we're in, and you know, so it's again, it goes back to this external. It's like, you know, how is all this? And that's actually, the skin is the smallest thing that's going on, really, because the internal is actually, you know, it's like all the sort of, you know, I was listening to a guy the other day and he was saying just in the brain there's like 2 billion sort of like sensory neurons, whatever. He's like, you know, billion. And you're thinking, well, there's no wonder life's a little bit complicated, because that was just in the brain. But then you've got, obviously, you know, all the molecules that are within you, sort of like, you know, parts of your DNA, but then there's, like, you know, I don't know enough of it, and maybe I should sort of like look at a bit more biology to say these things, but, you know, the fact is that the skin is the very, very, just the thing that keeps it all together. But, you know, you've got your skeleton, you've got muscle, you've got fibre, you've got fat, you've got all these different things, and yet we're just kind of like, we're only focusing on this little bit of like, how do I look? And yet there's just so much more to it. And I think it's like this realisation of the miracle that you are. You know what I mean? It's like, for you to happen, for you to exist, it's just, it blows my mind on the fact that you know, there's just the body and its complexity, and the body and the complexity is one thing, then the mind and the complexity of the mind, and then the complexity of the nervous system that makes you all that you are. And yet we're focused on so much on well, I haven't got this, and I'm living a life of lack. And yet this miracle that we go back to at the very beginning, the breath, the fact that you breathe.
It's mad, and you don't even have to think about it. Just do it. It's so interesting. Like what came to mind from what you were saying was I started looking at pictures of biology and what's inside my body, and I'm like, why have I never done this really? And like thought, what's going on this is in me and it belongs to me.
Yeah.
And I moved into this space of thinking, when and this is no judgment on a parent, when a parent sees a baby and the baby may be like having a rash, it's like, oh my god, ask the doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor. So it's an external person knows best about what this baby needs. It's really interesting how, and I support this. The support in my mind is from my own experience of now. I can go in and talk to my organs and see what's going on, and it works. And I don't even care anymore if it sounds crazy, because it works for me. And I just say it to people as a play, like, try it out. If you are feeling unease, where in your body is it? Okay, so it feels like the middle. Go on the internet. What part's in the middle? Oh, my stomach's in the middle. What's going on then? What's in the stomach? And then as you feel into it, you're like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm a bit nervous. Okay, what am I nervous about? And you can have this whole conversation with these parts of your body, almost like they've got their own consciousness of like, they're holding on to trauma or emotion and stuff. And then we go and see a person that's never really met us. There's no relationship at the moment with doctors. I don't know, it's very short. And maybe I'm biased, and I'm sorry if I am. But it's just, I like to have the power in myself.
Yeah, and also let's think that there's maybe another way. You've got an opinion,
yes,
a different opinion, which is fine.
Yeah. And,
which is one thing we wanted to allow on this as well, isn't it? It's to search for the truth. We need to allow space for people to talk and to disagree and come together in disagreement, maybe.
Yes.
So, sorry.
Yes. So, it's, entirely what you're saying. I'm not dissing doctors. I guess I like to have empowerment of myself. And this is what came up. I was speaking to a group last night. And when I feel like I've got no choice or I've got no power in what happens, that's when I feel my most down and depressed, and I feel I can't do anything. Things are happening around me and I've got no say, and that in itself, you feel like nothing. Like there's no way of seeing the magic and wonder of what we are. It's like it's not even there, it's gone.
Yeah,
like the power.
Thinking that way, yeah. There's a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've heard of him or listened to any of his stuff. And he was saying sort of like, because he does a lot of what you're talking about now, but he also backs it up with a lot of scientific sort of proof. He's just been amazing on it. He's spent years now on trials and sort of like, getting things attached to people's heads and seeing, does this actually sort of work? And one of the things he was saying the other day, which I think blew my mind as well, is like, one of the things that are wrong with us, so if we've got something that's a medical condition that's wrong with us, there's only something around about 1% of a DNA, bad DNA, that's given down to you. So we also go like, oh, if you're going to have sort of cancer, it's been handed down to you genetically, or anything like sort of like maybe diabetes or whatever it might be. But it was sort of saying the scientific proof is that only 1% of that sort of illness is actually handed down. The rest of it is made up by our life conditions. So that would be, so for example, you could get two guys working in a factory that might have had sort of exposure to something harmful like sort of asbestos, let's say, or something sort of, one person dies at sort of 38, the other person goes on to live till sort of 78. But they're both still exposed to this sort of external sort of factor, yeah. So realistically, shouldn't they both die at sort of 38, or is somebody's head in a different space? You've got people that can smoke till, not saying smoking's good for you, but you've got people that smoke till their 80s and 90s quite heavily, and yet other people die of smoke related. Somebody else doesn't, and you kind of think, well, maybe that's that scenario is actually just keeping them in a better, happier, sort of contented sort of place. I say I'm not condoning smoking before anybody has a rant, but it's just really just going back, trying to sort of go back to what you're saying. I think we have much more control of our own well-being by thinking about our, like our posture, our breath, looking within to sort of like for healing. I mean, this guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza, sort of like broke 6 vertebrae in his back or whatever, was told he never walk again. Within 12 weeks he was walking. By lying down and fixing his body himself, by going through his body.
I know it's real. I know it's real.
Which is amazing, so
it is real.
I think so, we just don't know and don't accept, I think, sometimes the power within. And I think, we're just in this time that we're in now, I think sort of like from the sort of 80s, 90s and onwards, and certainly in this time we're in now, the scientific sort of proof for all of this is quite amazing. At one time you would have just been told you were a bit wacky.
Yeah.
But I know it's just great to sort of hear your heart about kind of what's that. So we're probably going to wrap this up because we've been talking sort of like off in different sort of tangents, and we just hope to like people get the fact that we want to create a space, a safe space for people to be able to talk about sort of like opportunities and things that maybe some traumas that's holding people back, getting people out of stuck. Maybe looking at sort of like some things we both sort of like the spiritual, so it's like having a spiritual awareness, let's say. So it'd be great if we can get sort of people to live intentionally, so like going towards what's sort of like giving them purpose and meaning and all of that. Have you got anything you'd like to wrap up? The one thing that we sort of like sometimes see, I think, is when you get sort of serious, it's serious Adams, which is really interesting to see. Then there's another quite crazy side to you, isn't there? Which is your character, and it's really fun. So if sometimes Anna goes off on a tangent, that's really beautiful. So again, that space is allowed to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It helped me understand duality, like how we like to say that something is right or wrong. It's one thing, so it's just one thing, and it's more easily understandable. But we all have aspects of everything. So I can potentially be very, very silly and swing my sword around, which is a thing that I very much love to do. Then I can also help someone with deep trauma, and be very present and very serious, and hear them talk about something very deeply, and be as I said, present and hold that space for them. And that's what we can start to see in our own selves, that we're not like one thing, we have the ability to be all things, and when you open that up, it's actually like, it's cool, it's like, it's really freeing.
Yeah, getting to know who you truly are is an amazing sort of experience, and it's something not, I think sort of quite often we do life and we just hold it back, and then you get to a certain age, older, and you think, why didn't I do this, and why wasn't I a bit more like myself? So I think sort of what we, I think, both want is to get people into just a much healthier headspace, and that will move on to sort of a physical healthiness as well, won't it?
100%, yeah. You see changes miraculously.
Cool. Nice to chat again, and hopefully we'll just be doing this on a weekly basis.
Yes.
Right. Cheers, Anna.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See?
Thank you.
I bet none of them recorded.
God, no.
Just stop your